The savagery of Thomas Campbell's killing shocked not just his family, but also veteran detectives who had never seen anything like this. Naked to his socks, his body was covered in 61 individual injuries. Tortured for hours in his own home, Thomas was left to die, the culmination of months-long conspiracy by an individual he had once trusted. What was most shocking about this crime was not just the violence of the attack, but the people behind it. His former wife and the vengeful man at the heart of a deadly plot. It was a crime driven by betrayal, jealousy, and sheer malice that would shake Manchester to its foundations. Early on the morning of July 3rd, 2022, the peaceful streets of Mossley, Greater Manchester, would change forever after the horrific murder of Thomas Campbell. His body was discovered by a concerned neighbor who had noticed the front door of his house wide open. They did not anticipate seeing the gruesome sight of a well-planned crime. When the police arrived, it was evident that this was no random attack, but a cold and calculated act of revenge. A post-mortem would later reveal how much agony Thomas had endured before he died. The brutality of the crime would leave its lasting mark on all the people involved, particularly those who were closest to him. Thomas Campbell also lived a life that appeared perfect. By day, he was a personal trainer, but by night, he was also part of Manchester's underworld. His fortune was not derived from the fitness business, but from selling cocaine and concealing illicit cash. Thomas and his wife, Colleen, appeared to live a dream to everyone around them. They flaunted their wealth on social media with luxury holidays, designer goods, and high-end cars. Their Mossley home was impressive, costing £350,000, with high-end cars parked on the driveway and a lifestyle that appeared to be successful. But this success was founded on crime and deceit. Thomas's criminal life led to consequences. In 2018, the Campbells were investigated by police for money laundering. They discovered that the couple had spent significant money on high-end items, despite claiming they only earned money from benefits and Colleen's part-time job at Matalan. The authorities discovered their links to organized crime, and in 2019, they were arrested. Thomas was jailed for 2 years for money laundering, and Colleen was given 16 months, suspended for 2 years. However, Thomas's infidelity with another woman led to the breakdown of their marriage. By 2021, they had split, and the lingering bitterness from their failed relationship would soon escalate into murder. As Thomas reconstructed his life and entered into a new relationship, he unknowingly sparked the wrath of a man he barely knew. That man was John Belfield, a former lover of the woman Thomas was now romantically involved with. When he learned of Thomas's new relationship, Belfield's anger turned to outrage. But what made this even more dangerous was the fact that Belfield had underworld connections. Belfield, known for grand-scale drug trafficking, was not just angry. He was cooking up something far worse. He messaged Colleen on Instagram, a friendly message becoming a sinister collaboration. Though they had a history, Colleen's anger at Thomas's cheating made her a willing accomplice in Belfield's plans. She was happy to assist him in his revenge. They chatted a great deal, with many phone calls and text messages in 7 days. They had been united by one thing: their hatred of Thomas. Colleen played a crucial role in the scheme, providing Belfield with precise information about where Thomas was, the number plate of his van, and even the precise times he would be in certain locations. The scheme was becoming more and more intricate, with Colleen providing Belfield with information about Thomas's day-to-day activities. She even gave Belfield details about his home, planning an attack. The initial attempt at ambushing Thomas was carried out on June 30th, 2022, a few days before the killing. The attackers intended to ambush him outside his house, but Thomas unknowingly evaded them. It was a failed operation, but did not stop Belfield and his team. They refined their strategy, knowing that they would not let their chance slip. On July 2nd, 2022, at around 11 p.m., Thomas returned to his Mossley townhouse. He did not know that 3 men were waiting for him in the darkness. They were lying in wait. As Thomas went to his front door, the attackers jumped out. It occurred suddenly and was very violent. CCTV cameras caught on tape as Thomas was overpowered. The attackers pulled him inside, and then there followed 2 hours of atrocious torture. They did not want to steal from Thomas. They wanted to hurt him for everything he had done. They started off with brutal assaults, beating him, stabbing him, and kicking him. But the torture was worse. In an act of sadism, they poured boiling hot water over him. Thomas tried to fight as hard as he could, but it was too late. The attackers kept on beating him brutally. After the agony, his body was so battered that he could hardly be recognized. The attackers obtained what they wanted: drugs, money, and 2 Rolex watches that were never found. When they were done, Thomas was barely alive. In the early morning of July 3rd, they departed, making sure that they left no trace of their presence. They even destroyed the CCTV system in his house, removing any evidence that could be used to track them down. The following day, the neighbors were shocked to discover Thomas's body. His neighbors were frightened, and when the police came, everyone knew that this was not an ordinary crime. There were no traces that an intruder had left, but it was obvious that Thomas was targeted specifically. The investigation began immediately, and detectives soon discovered a terrible truth. This was not a robbery that had gone wrong. This was a premeditated murder. Only days following Thomas's body discovery, the first significant lead in the inquiry emerged. Police tracked a 25-minute phone call made just hours before Thomas was attacked between Thomas Campbell and John Belfield, the suspected mastermind. This sparked instant doubts about Colleen's participation, particularly when investigators found texts she sent to Belfield, including information on Thomas's vehicle registration and home address. This crucial information let the conspirators follow Thomas's movements. CCTV footage revealed Colleen, Stephen Cleworth, and Reese Stephen talking about the placement of a tracker on Thomas's van as the inquiry progressed. Colleen was detained by July 13th. Her talk with Thomas's mother, Lynn, however, sparked more concerns. Colleen informed Lynn that during a psychic visit, Thomas's soul had come through and revealed information about his injuries, including how the lads assaulted his face. These details had not been disclosed, which raised doubt on whether only someone engaged in the crime could know them. Disturbed by what Colleen had said, Lynn immediately called the police. This conversation became a pivotal moment in the investigation, helping to confirm Colleen's involvement in the crime. The investigation became more serious, and the police immediately looked at Colleen. It was clear that her involvement in the conspiracy was more than anyone could have thought. She had talked to John Belfield hours after the murder of Thomas. Their phone records, video footage, and a tracking device in Thomas's van all pointed to her involvement. She was the one to give Belfield vital information that led to the attack. As more evidence came to light, the police began arresting the individuals involved in the conspiracy. 3 individuals were convicted of being involved in Thomas's murder by January 2023. Reese Stephen, involved in the torture and killing, received a life sentence with a minimum of 37 years. Stephen Cleworth, who fitted the GPS tracker on Thomas's van and assisted with planning, received a life sentence with a minimum of 12 years. Colleen Campbell, Thomas's former wife, was convicted of manslaughter and conspiracy to steal. She received a 13-year prison sentence, which shocked her own family due to the betrayal. But even while justice was served to these individuals, one of the primary criminals was still at large: John Belfield, the main criminal of the attack. Belfield had fled the country, and there was no way the authorities could catch him. But in March 2023, a turn of events occurred. Belfield was found living in hiding in Suriname, South America, and was arrested on suspicion of drug trafficking. After nearly a year in hiding, he was sent back to the UK in March 2024. His trial would then shortly begin, and the full extent of his involvement in the murder would then be revealed. The Campbell family went through a horrific experience. Thomas's children lost their parents. Their father was killed, and their mother was imprisoned. Witnessing their mother being a victim of such a vile crime would haunt them for the remainder of their lives. This was one of the worst crimes the police ever encountered. Detective Inspector Mark Davis, who had been a member of the law enforcement department for 23 years, described Thomas's killing as unimaginable. The police searched for hours and justice was achieved. However, even with 3 perpetrators of the crime found guilty, the case is far from over. John Belfield remains the central figure of the case, and as his trial approaches, more details of his role will be revealed. Healing will take years for Thomas Campbell's family, and even though justice has partially been served, the pain of losing a loved one so brutally will never be erased. Thomas Campbell's case is a case of revenge and betrayal, driven by emotions that got out of hand and resulted in violence that will forever hang over the perpetrators' heads. As this case continues, we can only hope that whoever was responsible for this tragic incident is brought to justice. For the Campbell family, their quest for justice will continue until all aspects are revealed and all those guilty are heard in court. If this gruesome tale of violence and betrayal shocked you, leave a comment, hit a like, and subscribe for additional true crime content. What do you think about Colleen Campbell's involvement? Do you believe justice has actually been served, or is this case more complicated than it appears? Let us know in the comments.